Hey guys, Matt here. This is my review of The Batman. This movie is directed by Matt Reeves, who previously directed Cloverfield, as well as the newest Planet of the Apes trilogy. This movie stars Robert Pattinson, Zoe Kravitz, Paul Dano, and Jeffrey Wright, with Colin Farrell and Andy Serkis. Now, the plot of this movie is Batman continues his crusade in Gotham City when a serial killer, calling himself the Riddler, makes his presence known. So, with the help of a few allies, Batman uses his strength and his skills to track him down. When the talks of this movie first started, I felt the same way about Robert Pattinson and this idea of another Batman. Similarly, the way that I felt about Ben Affleck and the Zack Snyder Batman. I was like, okay, this is an established actor. It looks a little dark. It looks more realistic. I was excited because it's Batman. He's one of my favorite DC characters of all time. But I was reserved because the Batman before that, played by Christian Bale, had set the bar so high. So when the Ben Affleck Batman came out, I was like, okay, this take is good. He's good as Bruce Wayne. But that Batman was seemingly designed for the DCEU. And so because we didn't just get Batman, we got Batman sharing a movie, Batman sharing a story. It was like Batman and Friends, or Batman as a co-star, and not just strictly Batman. So this Robert Pattinson movie, I was like, okay, this is a darker, grittier look. So once again, I'm excited, but my expectations were pretty high. So I saw this movie, and wow, this movie has now set the bar very high for the Caped Crusader. So right off the bat, I have nothing but good things to say about this movie, so let's get into it. Let's start with the acting. The acting in this movie is very good from everybody involved, whether it's a main character or a minor character. Matt Reeves is able to do something very interesting, and there's a saying that everything that's on screen, everything that a director puts there for the audience to see, is there for a reason. And it's movies like this that prove that point. Robert Pattinson as Batman, great. Fantastic. Him as Bruce Wayne was also good. But I only say that because Bruce Wayne's only in 2 scenes. And even then, just like the comics, which I'm going to be referring to quite a bit in this review, Bruce Wayne is always wearing the Batman mask. You just can't see it. Bruce Wayne is always Batman. It's almost like Batman is who he is, and Bruce Wayne is his mask. Because every time he's out in public as Bruce Wayne, he's always looking, he's always observing, he's always on the ready. So Robert Pattinson, as Bruce Wayne Batman, great job. Now, the only gripes I have are really just me looking for things. It's not a complaint or a knock against the movie. Because Batman has been on this crusade for only 2 years, he's still young, he's still new. But other than that, this Batman is straight out of the comics. The way he observes things, the way he uses his detective skills, the way he narrates, the way he keeps notes on things. He's right out of the comics. And it's only because he's played by a youngish actor like Robert Pattinson that I'm not like, wow, this is the best Batman ever of all time. But he's very good. Yeah, Bruce Wayne has a little bit longer hair than I anticipated, and he's a little brooding, but like I said, this is a young Bruce Wayne. He's still new to the game. His costume is not totally decked out. He doesn't have a fancy bat symbol. He doesn't have fancy gauntlets just yet. You know, he has makeshift stuff because, again, he's new to this gig. Zoe Kravitz as Selina Kyle. Really good. Really good. She doesn't play a character that's totally into the Catwoman shtick of cats. Everything's themed. Everything, is purring and licking and stuff like that. She plays a girl that just happens to like cats, that dresses up in an outfit that is similarly like a cat. She makes the cat references, but she's just a really good Catwoman because also she seems new to the game as well. Paul Dano as the Riddler. Super creepy. Super creepy. Now, it's hard not to compare any Batman villain, or really any big villain in any huge franchise, to Heath Ledger's Joker because he set the bar so high. This version of the Riddler is a lot like the Zodiac Killer and a lot like John Doe in the movie Seven, where he's very creepy, says things very slow, very methodical, but it's okay because Paul Dano has always been a good actor. From Taking Lives to Girl Next Door to Prisoners, he's always been a good actor. So here, you kind of get like this mysterious Riddler figure, and then he doesn't get unmasked until later in the movie, which is something that I would like to have seen. Because the scene that he has with Batman where he is unmasked is really good, and it really shows Paul Dano's acting chops, because he just sounds sinister and scary before that point. But it's alright, because the character works. You believe this is a scary madman. Andy Serkis is Alfred the butler. He's good. He's more like the Sean Pertwee Alfred from the show Gotham, where he's this experienced man who taught Bruce Wayne how to fight, who is very smart as well, not just a servant. So he's good in this. It's nice to see him working with Matt Reeves again. Jeffrey Wright is Commissioner Gordon, or Gordon, in this movie. He's good. The actor is really good. I still think Gary Oldman is the best Gordon, but Jeffrey Wright is more like Batman's sidekick in this movie. A lot like the movie Seven, he's the Morgan Freeman character. He's the partner in helping Batman solve these crimes. But he's really good because there's times where he's an authoritative figure as a cop. There's other times where he's like, hey, come on, man. Like, he talks to him like a person. Colin Farrell. Colin Farrell as Oswald Cobblepot, a.k.a. the Penguin. Wow. You can hear that it's him underneath all this makeup, but you cannot see him whatsoever. He is great in this movie. He looked a little bit like, I think his name is Richard Small. He was an actor that was coincidentally in Gotham, who's in a bunch of movies. But yeah, fantastic as Oswald. Like, he's got the look, he's got the mannerisms. There's things they allude to at the end of the movie about who he may become. But yeah, really good job as far as the acting goes. And I can't talk about the characters in this movie without referencing the city of Gotham City itself. This feels like a living, breathing place with real people in it. Because the characters talk about their environment, their city, their surroundings so much that you see so much of the city and you feel like you're actually there. It's always dark, it's always dingy. It's just like Blade Runner. You're like, alright, it's like you're so familiar with this area because it's constantly shown. These people are so heavily involved within it. This was great. Matt Reeves does a lot of good things in this movie as far as the directing goes. Especially how he uses the color red, which is my favorite color. So I thought those scenes were awesome. Whether it's the rain or whether it's Batman holding up a flare. The color red makes this movie seem so hard-boiled, like a film noir movie. Also, there's some narration in this film, which is really cool because it sets the tone for where Batman's head is at, where his status is within the city. He bookends the film with narration at the beginning and at the end, and you can really see how his Batman changes throughout the, believe it or not, 6 days this movie takes place in. 6 days, from October 31st to November 6th. Crazy. Also, aside from scenes being either dusk or dawn, there are no daylight scenes in this movie. It's all nighttime. Again, just like Blade Runner. It's all nighttime, and it shows you how much of a nocturnal animal that Batman, Bruce Wayne, is, which is really cool to see. The action in this movie, top-notch. The music, amazing. I didn't think we'd be able to top Hans Zimmer's score from the Dark Knight trilogy with Batman music, but in this film, it just may rival it, because previously, Batman scores and Batman music have always kind of been like triumphant, heroic, building up Batman as this hero, this savior. But this movie, Batman's all about fear. He's all about vengeance. So this music, when it hits, this dum, 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 with like these bells clinging, no, this is more like Batman is coming to get you. And the criminals are afraid of Batman. And that's another thing I liked about this film, is that Batman here isn't referred to as Batman. Aside from someone calling him Batboy, Batman himself calling himself Batman, and these notes that are left for him with that word on it, he goes by Vengeance. Which is awesome, because he's just all about dealing with this anger, this fear inside himself, but also fear that he wants to inflict on the criminals of Gotham City. And this movie is about him learning to be more than just a scary figure. And another thing that's great about this movie is that, unlike the previous live action Batman movies, this is a detective story. Yes, they hinted at it in The Dark Knight, but here, Batman uses, analysis and data to collect evidence. He writes journals, he keeps notes, he breaks it all down to solve this crime. And it's really awesome because, like I said, it's Batman right out of the comics. Aside from the way that, he speaks, then again, we really can't gauge that because there's no voice in the comics. He looks like Batman from the comics. There's scenes where he's in a room looking at something, and a cop walks in and goes, "Hey, you can't touch that." And Batman just looks at him. Just the look alone. The look and him walking in these boots that almost sound like Western boots with spurs on the back of them. Great. Very intimidating. Very Batman. So, because this movie is great, this movie is very good, and it's now set the bar very high for Batman movies to come, I'm going to give The Batman an A. Is this the best Batman movie of all time? That's hard to say. If we're saying all time and including live action and animation, I'm going to say no. But if we're just including live action movies, I'm going to say yes. Because The Dark Knight set the bar very high in 2008. But now, 14 years later, this movie takes everything that's great about that film and improves upon it. And looking back on it now, some can kind of say that The Dark Knight is a really good Joker movie with Batman in it. So, I'm not going to argue that, but The Dark Knight is still very good. It's not my favorite of that trilogy, but it's still very good. But The Batman, wow, look out. There are rumors that the next Batman film is going to take on Arkham Asylum, or even the Court of Owls, which I'm totally on board for. And now there's also a deleted scene online of Batman talking to that version of the Joker, which is super creepy, so I recommend checking that out as well. So, until next time, guys. See ya.